The lights on the stage dimmed slightly as Morgan Wallen adjusted his position, reclining in a soft leather chair. His presence was commanding even before he spoke, a tall figure with a raw charm that made him one of the most polarizing yet beloved figures in country music. He was invited on prime time tonight, one of the most watched late-night talk shows in America, for a seemingly routine promotional appearance. After all, his latest album had just hit #1 on the Billboard charts, and tour tickets were selling out faster than ever. Morgan wasn't new to interviews. Over the years, he'd learned to navigate the media landscape with humor, authenticity, and sometimes candor. But today felt different from the start. There was tension in the air, something unspoken but palpable. As the host, Alex Monroe, took the seat across from him, Morgan felt the weight of anticipation pressing down on both of them. Alex Monroe was known for her edgy interview style. She often put celebrities in uncomfortable positions to get a reaction that made headlines. Her show thrived on controversy, and she prided herself on being able to turn any guest moment into a viral sensation. Today, her subject was Morgan Wallen. The audience erupted into applause at the sight of the camera, wildly cheering the appearance of their favorite singer. Morgan waved and smiled, trying to appear relaxed despite the growing sense of anxiety inside him. This wasn't just another interview. "Welcome back," Alex said, her voice smooth and polished. "Today we have a guest who needs no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the king of country music, Morgan Wallen." The crowd roared again, and Morgan chuckled softly and nodded toward the audience. "Thanks for inviting me, Alex. So let's get right to it," Alex continued, dramatically opening her notebook. "Your new album has captivated the world. How does it feel to be topping the charts again?" "Feels great," Morgan replied, his Tennessee accent intensifying as he warmed up. "You know, this album means a lot to me. It's very personal, about where I've come from, the struggles I've faced, and the lessons I've learned along the way." "It's incredible," Alex said, her tone light but calculating. "And your fans just adore you. They love your music, they love your energy, and, well, some might say they even admire your tough guy personality." Morgan raised an eyebrow, sensing the first hint of what was about to happen. "Tough guy personality? What do you mean?" "Well," Alex leaned forward slightly, her expression turning serious. "You're often described as the epitome of traditional notions of masculinity. Strong, steadfast, unapologetically tough. Is that something you consciously cultivate?" For a brief second, Morgan hesitated. Then, with a slow smirk on his face, he leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "I guess so, yes. But I don't try too hard to fit into any mold. I'm just me. If people see that as strength or toughness, fine. But honestly, I think it's only natural if you grew up the way I did." Alex nodded, seemingly satisfied with his answer. "For now, that makes sense. But here's the thing, Morgan. In today's world, conversations about masculinity had evolved. We talk more openly about vulnerability, emotional intelligence, and breaking stereotypes. Do you think there's room for that kind of evolution in the image you're creating?" The question hung in the air like a challenge, and Morgan felt it immediately. For a moment, the room was silent except for the hum of the studio equipment. The audience watched intently, sensing the change in dynamics. It was no longer just a casual conversation, but confrontation. Morgan tilted his head, scrutinizing Alex. Her eyes were calm, her smile slightly smug, as if she already knew the answer she wanted, or expected, to hear. But Morgan wasn't about to give her dissatisfaction. "You know," he began slowly, choosing his words carefully, "I see where you're going with this. And yes, I agree that men need to communicate better, empathize more, and show emotion. Those are important traits. But here's the thing. I don't think strength and vulnerability are mutually exclusive. You can be tough and still be human. Heck, I'd say real strength comes from embracing both sides of yourself." The audience murmured approvingly, clearly intrigued by his answer. Alex, however, remained unfazed, her professional demeanor intact. "That's a fair point," she agreed. "But some critics argue that the kind of masculinity you present, the tough guy image, can sometimes perpetuate harmful stereotypes. What do you think?" Morgan's jaw clenched slightly, but he kept his composure. "Look, I understand why people might say that, and if my actions or words hurt someone, I will be held accountable. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it will continue to be. But that's the reality. Life isn't easy. Sometimes you have to dig deep and find your inner resilience just to survive. That doesn't mean I don't care about others or struggle with my own emotions. It just means that I choose to face life head on rather than run away from it. His voice sounded convinced and resonated with his listeners, who nodded in agreement. Even Alex seemed caught off guard for a moment, her usual composure slightly shaken. But isn't part of facing life is recognizing its complexities? She asked, regaining her self-confidence. By encouraging toughness above all else, aren't you reinforcing outdated notions of what it means to be a man? Morgan took a deep breath and leaned forward to meet her gaze. Look, Alex, I respect your point of view. I really do. But I also believe that every man, and woman, for that matter, should determine their own path. My path has taught me the value of persistence and perseverance. Does that mean I don't value kindness and empathy? Of course not. It simply means that I balance those qualities differently than other people. He paused, letting his words soak in. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to live authentically. If it inspires someone to embrace their own truth, whether it be through toughness, vulnerability, or both, then I've done my job. When Morgan finished speaking, the studio erupted into applause that rumbled through the room. People stood up and clapped enthusiastically, while others shouted words of encouragement. It was obvious that Morgan's response had pleased not only his ardent fans, but everyone who valued honesty and self-expression. Alex quickly came to her senses and smiled. Well, Morgan, you certainly know how to captivate us. Thank you for sharing your thoughts so candidly. Anytime, Morgan replied, smiling broadly. Despite the intensity of the conversation, he couldn't help but feel invigorated. That's why he loved performing and connecting with people, because it allowed him to share a part of himself that went beyond the songs. As he finished his performance, Morgan waved to the audience one last time before heading backstage. There was an atmosphere of excitement backstage. Members of the crew congratulated him on his performance, while producers excitedly whispered about the potential impact of the music video on the internet. Within hours, clips of the interview began circulating on social media sites such as Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Viewers' opinions were divided, sparking heated debates in comment sections and forums. Some praised Morgan for being firm in his beliefs, claiming that he represents a refreshing take on modern masculinity. Others criticized him, arguing that his stance reinforced toxic norms. Regardless of opinion, one thing was undeniable. The interview went viral. The hashtags #masculinitybait and #Morgan Wallen interview dominated the trends, attracting the attention of influencers, journalists, and regular users alike. Celebrities expressed their views on the topic. Academics spoke out too, using the moment as an example to discuss gender roles and societal expectations. Meanwhile, Morgan remained calm, letting the conversation unfold naturally. He understood that his role was not to dictate solutions, but to prompt reflection. And, if nothing else, the interview accomplished just that. A few days later, Morgan sat alone on his tour bus, scrolling through the endless stream of responses. Some comments brought a smile to his face, others made him shake his head incredulously. Yet, amidst all the noise, he found solace in staying true to himself. In a world increasingly defined by labels and divisions, Morgan Wallen showed that complexity is normal, that strength and vulnerability are not opposites but complementary forces. His message resonated because it was authentic, based on his experiences and values. As Morgan resumed his tour, he carried the memories of that evening with him, grateful for the opportunity to connect with others on such a deep level. And while the debate about masculinity will undoubtedly continue, one thing is certain: Morgan Wallen added his voice to that conversation, leaving an indelible mark in the hearts of millions of listeners around the world.